Sooner fans, Longhorn Nation, welcome to episode 161 of the Bevo Podcast, the only podcast exclusively dedicated to covering the greatest rivalry in college football, the University of Texas and the University of Oklahoma. I'm here with my man, Kevin Miller. I am John Whitson. Kevin, a special Christmas Eve edition of the Bevo Podcast. We will be previewing the Armed Forces Bowl between the Oklahoma Sooners and the Navy Midshipmen. But first, Kevin, more importantly, maybe the most important thing of all, possibly more important than the birth of Jesus Christ, is what are we eating tonight and tomorrow? I know you are a preparer of meat and food for the family. What is on the menu? And then I will tell you what is on our menu.
All right. Well, I will be smoking a brisket tonight.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to throw it on tonight and just kind of let it go low and slow overnight. And hopefully it's ready to go Christmas morning.
Are we talking pellets? Are we talking wood chips?
Yeah, I'm using a pellet. I'm using a pellet this time. Yeah.
A smoky oak pellet? What's the pellet? What do we got?
It's a Traeger.
Oh.
Okay. Traeger pellet smoker. Yeah, I've had it about almost 4 years now.
So it's broken. It's broken.
Oh yeah.
Now, will you need to be checking it every night, or are you just letting it go and trust in the process?
Yeah, with the brisket, just let it go. Put it at about 190 degrees. Let it go. Get all smoked up overnight, and I'll wake up in the morning and then wrap it up, and then let it finish cooking. Should be done around 11 or so.
Do you have like a dry rub you're putting on it? You got a dry rub with some spices and stuff? You got any you're letting that out, or you're not going to tell anybody what that is?
Oh no, it's basically salt and pepper, and then I put a little seasoned salt, but it's like the coarse salt and pepper.
Oh yeah.
Have to get that bark on there.
Are you willing to post pictures of this on the internet tomorrow morning?
Yes.
You're going to stand by it. You're stand buying it.
Yeah.
You're not. This isn't a Lincoln Riley situation where people are going to roast you over not knowing how to cook a brisket.
No.
You're from Texas. What are we talking about? But
so is he though. So is he. So that doesn't mean everything.
That's fair. That's a good point. He's the people from Texas I don't like. Okay, listen. But to be fair, you didn't grow up smoking briskets, though, right? Or did you? Did your family
No.
This is a new thing. Like, this is something you've acquired since becoming a homeowner and moving to Oklahoma and the whole thing.
Yeah, just over the last couple of years.
I love it.
The internet's been great for that, man. There's a lot of information on how to do it.
I love a brisket. I love it. I love a good brisket. But you're right. It's all in the bark for me. It really is. If you get that kind of that crunch and that, along with the softness of the inside, the tenderness on the inside, listen, that's the way to go. Okay. So we had a cruise for Thanksgiving. We were on a cruise, and it was it was fine. It was good. I'm not complaining about going on a cruise, but the Thanksgiving meal was completely lackluster. It wasn't very good. Like, it was no bueno. So my girls and Alice really wanted to have a tradition. We don't normally do this. Wanted to do a traditional holiday meal for Christmas. Okay. I like to do steaks on Christmas Eve, but they decided we're going to do steak still because that's what I want, but they also want a turkey. So we're going to, are you ready for this? You're going to love this. The Chicken Shack is deep frying a turkey for us. We're picking it up today.
Oh,
and
dude, I know that's incredible, man.
Listen,
great.
Dude, I know you know about the Chicken Shack and the Chicken Shack. Now, are you aware that he has opened a new store or a new restaurant up on Western, like across from Sushi Nico, up, in the cool part of Western? I want to say between like 36th and 44th on the north side.
No.
Yes, he's opened.
It's another. Is it the Chicken Shack?
It's another Chicken Shack. It's another Chicken Shack. Listen, you know how good Chicken Shack is.
Of course, yeah. Friends of Brown River, of course, too.
I told you the story about Chicken Shack, right? With this guy, Ed.
I don't think so.
Okay. So we were introduced to Ed 13 years ago. I know this because I had just quit working my real job right after my daughter was born. And one of my former coworkers, shout out to Dusty Hanson, national champion, OU baseball, hooked us up with Ed. Him and his son were playing football together. And he's like, hey, Ed's a contractor. You need to meet him. And, maybe, y'all can do some stuff together. And I'm like, okay, yeah, this is great. So we go up to the north side, and he's in his warehouse. And the whole point is to talk about how he can help clients of Brad O'Haver. But in the meantime, he is roasting his chicken. Like right there for the meeting, right there in the warehouse. And he's got fryers going and all sorts of stuff. And he feeds us this chicken, and it's like the best thing in the world. And he's like, yeah, I know I'm a contractor, but my true love is chicken, like cooking chicken and roasting chicken. And Alice and I left going, I guess we might use him as a contractor, but this guy really needs to be cooking chicken. Lo and behold, 10 years later, he starts the chicken process. The rest is history. Man. He chased his dream, Kevin. He chased his dream. And there's too few people that do that. You and I are chasing our dream on this podcast. It has not been as successful as the Chicken Shack, but we're working on it.
No,
we're working on it.
It's a process.
Congratulations, Ed. I will as well post a picture of the turkey, and y'all can be the judge if Ed is really as good. He is. I'm telling you, the Chicken Shack up in Jones.
Yeah, I'm not doubting that, dude.
I'm gonna get some potato wedges too. I don't even care that my family's in there peeling potatoes for mashed potatoes. If I'm gonna go to the Chicken Shack, I am going to get some potato wedges.
They're like the best. Right.
All right. Secondary news to that, Oklahoma plays Navy. That's what this show's about. It is a preview. But before we do that, hold on. Let's give a quick update on Texas. Texas coming off their big win against Clemson. No real news since Saturday, and we had a whole show that broke down that game. But I just want to touch on the injury bug that hit Cam Williams, Jake Major, Trey Wisner. Any news coming out of Austin? Still have some time to you've got almost a week, maybe 8 days before you play again. Any updates on injuries?
Yeah, 8 days before the next game against Arizona State, of course, on New Year's Day. Sark in his press conference yesterday said that Cam Williams, his injury was not as bad as they initially feared, so they're hoping he'll be back. Didn't hear anything about Jake Majors or Trey Wisner. They seemed okay after the game, so I would assume that they're going to be okay, but I haven't heard anything to indicate otherwise, so stay tuned.
Well, I am officially Team Scatterbo. I have Arizona State gear on order. I will be a Sun Devil in spirit for New Year's Day. I think it would be awesome if Arizona State could beat Texas in Texas. If you beat them, then you're in Texas?
Correct.
How does the 5th seed get to play in Texas?
I've been telling you all along, the 5th seed is where it's at.
Oh my God. I'm sure you tell me this every time, and I'm still dumbstruck by the fact that the 5th seed gets to play in Texas. But anyway, listen, I would love to see Scatterbo run for 200 yards. I'm worried I talked about this. This is going to be a repeat of the Big 12 championship from last year where Ollie Gordon gets shut down. I hope that is wrong. I think Scatterbo's a great story. I think Arizona State's a great story. I worry that Texas is too much. But we're going to talk about that. We'll have a full preview episode of that and all the college football playoff games. But let's focus today, Christmas Eve, 2024, on OU Navy, 11 a.m., December 27th, Fort Worth, Texas, Amon G. Carter Stadium, ESPN, 11 a.m. Oklahoma is a 3-point favorite. The over-under is 43.5. Navy is led by Westmore High School graduate Brian Newberry. Did you know this?
I did hear that. Yes.
And he later went on to play at Baylor as a safety and then went into coaching. This seems like a pretty cool cat. I wish we weren't playing against him because I think he's somebody I can get behind. Navy's looking for their 6th ever 10-win season. Kevin, what are your thoughts on the OU Navy game as we approach it here coming up on Friday?
You know, it's interesting, right? Especially with the way college football, the bowl games having been so minimized. It's just going to be interesting. I just want to see what the mentality of OU is. Are the players just going to be fired up to be out there, or are they going to come out flat, playing a bowl game in TCU Stadium? What's
Yeah.
what's that going to be like?
Yeah.
Just things have changed so much to where the bowl game was a reward for a successful season. But Oklahoma has different expectations, and obviously those expectations weren't met. So I'm just curious how that's going to be. I do think Navy's had a good season, right? But if you guys are fired up, even with a depleted roster, you still have a decided talent advantage. So I think what I'm looking for is just to see how fired up you guys are.
I agree we have a depleted roster on offense. I agree with that statement. Um, because we do. The two biggest transfers are Jackson Arnold and Bauer Sharp. Whatever we think of them, whatever we think of who's coming in and who's leaving, whatever. As far as this year goes, 2024, we are losing our starting quarterback and our starting tight end and leading receiver. Okay, whether we think Bauer Sharp should have been or what, that doesn't matter. We are losing those, so there is depletion on the offensive side of the ball. But on the defensive side of the ball, yes, we lose Stutzman and Bowman, and those are all timers at OU. I don't want to minimize that, but the rest of the defense is back. Kobe McKenzie and Peyton Bowen, especially Peyton Bowen in my mind, are really, really good replacements. Now, will they replace those two? I don't think anybody's making that case. But if the worst thing that happens is I have to see Peyton Bowen and Kobe McKenzie play against Navy, I'm not that worried on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, that's
Here's the deal.
completely reasonable.
I mean, and the argument could be made, Navy is 7th nationally rushing the ball, 249 yards per game, that this is going to be a linebacker game, okay? And having Stutzman, keeping in mind we were 12th in rush defense, so we had a very good rush defense all year. We were able to stop Ole Miss's run game, Tennessee's run game to an extent. We did a good job. Obviously, Alabama's run game. So we did a really good job in the run game, and you can put that on Stutzman. So that I guess that there's a little bit of question and doubt, but I just think defensively as a unit, we're going to be able to attack Navy's strong point. And if we can force them to have to pass the ball a little bit, I like our chances with Eli Bowen, Jacoby Johnson, Peyton Bowen, and of course, Robert Spears Jennings. I think those guys are really, really good.
Correct. Yeah, I agreed. They don't want it. They'll throw it. They've thrown it more than Navy typically has, but they don't want to do that. If they could run it 50 times, they'll do that. So, I mean, obviously, this is all about their quarterback. He is what makes their offense go. He's got over 1,000 yards rushing this year. 284 carries for 1,091 yards rushing. So if you can get that penetration, make him at least pitch the ball, and then with your team speed, run down those running backs, you can make it a long day for them.
I mean, look, I guess Alabama is not a really good comparison from the standpoint that they are different systems. But in terms of running quarterbacks, that's probably our best one, right? That we went up against.
Oh, absolutely. Milroe. Yeah.
And we had a tremendous game plan for him. I think giving BV this long to prepare a defense, Zach Alley this long to prepare a defense, knowing who you're working with, as we get closer to game time, I feel better and better. Also, you brought it up. Walk us through Navy's schedule. As good as Navy's been with a 9-3 record, you don't think they're all that in a bag of chips, do you?
No, I mean, look, they've had a really good season. But, when they've gone up against those teams that have the type of athletes that OU has, even, down a notch, like Tulane, they just really struggled, right? If we're going through the schedule, I mean, Bucknell, Temple was one of the worst teams in the country this year. They did win a shootout against a pretty good Memphis team. I thought that was impressive. Then UAB, okay, Air Force struggled this year, Charlotte. And then, of course, Notre Dame. They had a really good opportunity. You were fired up about that. You picked them.
I was fired
them
up.
to beat Notre Dame. I figured they had no chance just being on the same field with just the level of athlete that Notre Dame has. And the fact that, I think I mentioned this too, the fact that Navy was good, they would actually have Notre Dame's attention this year. They weren't going to be able to catch them slipping. like they have in some years past. Notre Dame was ready for them, and you saw what happened there. And then they lose to Rice the next week. Bounce back against South Florida, pretty good win there. But then Tulane, 35-0 at home. That's a rough one right there. Then bounce back to beat East Carolina and then beat Army. So, I mean, Notre Dame, you guys obviously aren't as good as Notre Dame this year, but from a talent standpoint, you're not that far off
We beat
from what
Tulane.
Notre Dame has.
We beat Tulane. We're better
Correct.
than Tulane.
Yeah.
And Tulane waxed them. That was a
Correct.
key game. That was a really
It
key
was.
game. And to kind of give an indicator. So the more I see that, I was look, when it was a 7-point line last week, I was taking Navy all day long. I just was, whether it's a motivation factor, give a rip factor, depleted, whatever. Things have changed, though. A couple things have changed. Number one, Arbuckle's coaching Hawkins. And I think that's a really key piece of information for the bowl game, because you have what is a motivated coach working with a motivated quarterback. And despite his performance against Texas and Auburn, when Hawkins was motivated and when he was laying himself out like he did against Auburn and a little bit against Tennessee in the second half, his teammates rallied around him on the offensive and defensive side of the ball.
Agreed.
Okay? He created energy, in other words, right? He's not a Landry Jones type quarterback who is like, let's just go lead by example. No, he's a vocal kid. He's exciting. He puts stuff out there. And now you have a motivated coach with him too. I think that's really, really cool. I think that could be the contributing factor. I think Hawkins on the offensive side of the ball is clearly the X factor. I don't think that's an overstatement. And maybe I'm saying stuff that people have been saying all week. But I just think that's kind of, if Hawkins plays well, I think we probably beat Navy by 10 points.
No, I completely agree. You guys just have too much of a talent advantage. Looking at that Tulane game, real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Navy only rushed for 100 yards on 35 carries against Tulane. I mean, that is being shut down right there. They were a little bit better against Notre Dame running the ball. It didn't matter, obviously, but they did run for 222 yards against Notre Dame. So what version of them are we going to see? I can put it up here. Hold on.
Hold on. I'm looking at what we rushed against Tulane.
Okay.
I'm just looking that up. Hold on.
No, sure. So I'm just curious, right? Because they go ahead.
We rushed for 182. Jackson Arnold had a great game on the ground. That was one of his best games. Was the Tulane game. He went for 14 for 97, 6.9 yards a carry, 2 touchdowns against Tulane.
Yeah. I mean, really, the reason you won the game, that and the Army St. Thomas destroying their offensive tackle in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have Jackson Arnold though. Although I still feel like Hawkins.
Well, Hawkins is even a better athlete than while Jackson Arnold is a very good runner, Hawkins is dynamic. So we'll see. I'm curious to see what the game plan is for you guys offensively.
In addition to that, let me throw out a stat to you that I think speaks to what you've been saying. In their 9 wins, okay, which are all pretty good wins, in their 9 wins, they were 104-7 in points off of turnovers. In their 3 losses, they were outscored 48-0 in points off of turnovers. If Oklahoma can have an opportunistic day turning the ball over, then they're going to win the game. If Michael Hawkins has a repeat of the first 5 minutes of South Carolina, Oklahoma could get beat by 2 touchdowns.
True. That's true. Now, the good thing for you guys is Navy doesn't have Dylan Stewart and Kyle Kennard out there.
And Oklahoma also doesn't have Bauer Sharp blocking either of those 2 guys.
Right. And again, this makes Bauer Sharp look bad, but that's not his fault. Not his fault.
No, who's the adult here? Who was the adult in the room? It was Seth
Right.
Luttrell and John Finley who said, this will be a great idea. Let's have the worst blocking tight end in the history of Oklahoma block the 2 best edges in the SEC. Like, what are we talking about?
It's
What,
wild, man.
what, I mean, if that's not a microcosm of OU season, the first 5 minutes is a South Carolina game, self-inflicted wounds, untimely turnovers, and utter incompetence in a game plan. I don't know what you needed to know about OU season. Okay?
Yeah, it's like we
Because
didn't even know what they were trying to do there.
we have no, Kevin, we have no idea what they were trying to do. Look, you look at the Alabama game, and you look what can be done with smart game planning and the right decisions and a good defensive game plan. You're telling me that if that thought process and strategy and attention to detail wasn't put into the South Carolina game, that maybe we win, maybe we lose. I don't know. South Carolina is a very good team. We don't let them score 21 points in 5 minutes.
No, the game was over before. I mean,
I
attended that game.
We outgained and outscored them after that, but it didn't matter. It doesn't matter.
No, it didn't matter. Yeah, I thought you did some pretty decent things against Lenore Sellers. He was not elite in that game, but again, it didn't matter because every time you guys had the football, and every time Arnold would drop back to pass, he had at least one defensive lineman in his face. I went to that game, and we didn't get the tickets until a few minutes before kickoff. So we're on the way down to the stadium, and the first 2 touchdowns happened
before you're even in.
Before we're even in, yeah.
Oh my gosh, how much did you pay for those tickets? Please tell me you got free tickets.
Yeah, they were free.
Okay,
Casey's brother has season tickets, and he couldn't go.
Well, whatever. My point is that's a microcosm of the ineptitude of the season. It's the first 5 minutes of South Carolina. That's neither here nor there. It's a different system, different situation. We have a chance. Here's the momentum. I don't know how much momentum you get from beating Navy. Okay? I really don't. I don't know that it's just like this surge of adrenaline. And I don't know that it's a big kick in the footballs if you lose to Navy. Navy's not a bad team. So many excuses will be able to be made. We will be able to make so many excuses if OU loses, right? Yeah. They didn't care. Who wants to have to prepare for the wing T? Who wants to have to do this? You're down your starting quarterback. You're down Danny Stutzman, blah, blah, blah. So if the stories the narrative is already written, whether OU wins or OU loses. What I want to see offensively is any hint of influence that Arbuckle can have on Hawkins. I think that is pivotal for going forward into the spring ball and into next season. Number 2, Xavier Robinson. I said it before. I'm saying it again. Is he the kid and the player we saw second half against Missouri and against Alabama? Or is he the guy we saw against LSU, which was a mediocre back, like all of our backs have been this year? I just pulled up the stats of the Tulane game. You want to know what Javonte Barnes had in yards per carry? Because it's the same stat he had every game, 3.9 yards a carry.
Yeah, I'm going to say just around 4.
You know what his number should be next year? It should be 39 because that's what he averages is 3.9 yards a carry. Okay. So I want to see what Xavier Robinson could do. I got to tell you, me personally, as an OU fan, I'd love to be proved wrong. Kind of moved on from Gavin Sawchuk. It's like, whatever. Give me a healthy dose of Taylor Tatum and Xavier Robinson. That's what I'd like to see against Navy. The Sawchuk experiment, to me, it's just not, it hasn't been there all year. I don't think I'm being a negative Nelly on this. I think the stats back me up on this.
Yeah, he has 26 carries for 61 yards this year.
Yeah, why do we need to see him in the bowl game, Kevin?
Yeah, 26 for 61. Now, he's just been
that can't be right. That can't be right.
That's what I'm seeing, at least on ESPN.
Gavin Sawchuk only had 26 carries all year.
That's what I see on ESPN. Seriously. 26 for 61, no touchdowns, 3 catches for 17 yards.
I am shocked by that. That is, yeah. I guess it makes sense. Javonte Barnes started the entire year. Taylor Tatum got the bulk of the backup carries. And then when those two went down, they went with Xavier Robinson. So I guess that makes sense. That still seems really low. So maybe I shouldn't even be so hard on the team about giving him the ball because clearly they didn't give him the ball.
Yeah. Taylor Tatum, 53 carries, 272 yards, so 5.1 a carry and 3 touchdowns.
And what was Javonte?
Let's see. Barnes is
who is not playing in this game, by the way.
122 carries for 577 yards, so that's 4.7.
Yeah,
and
that's
5 touchdowns.
Kevin, that's 4.7 with numbers grotesquely skewed by the Maine game.
Yeah, correct.
Those numbers, if you back out Maine, and if somebody's out there saying, well, you can't back out stats are what they are. No, they're not. That was Maine. Maine was terrible. They were an FCS team and not even a very good one. And I don't want to hear about Maine. People are like, remember that throw Jackson Arnold had to JJ Hester? Okay. It was a really good throw. I don't know it was against Maine. Like, I'm sorry. I don't take anything away from that stupid game. All right. Let's talk transfer portal real quick. There is, as it relates to OU, and if there's anything going on with Texas, we can talk about it. I've been very clear about my take on this. You have to spend money on the defensive players to keep them. I hope that they are not unloading, but spending appropriate amounts of money on Robert Spears-Jennings, Dominic Williams, or Mason Thomas. If you got to pay the Bowen brothers, Kip Lewis, of course. Don't let me leave out Kip Lewis. Anybody else we need to spend money on defensively? Oklahoma has to do that. It's the only thing they were good at last year. You have to maintain that strength. You can't take a step back defensively to bolster an anemic offense. If anything, you need to continue to reinforce a really good defense because of your anemic offense. Right? Does this make sense? This is what I'm saying.
No, you're right. And
Yeah,
that's when Texas deal with NIL is they spend money on the guys they have more than they do with incoming players. That's why they don't get a lot of those big name guys.
So they have to spend money on that, right? And we'll never know what that is because of the way NIL works. We're just not going to know. Okay? But they have to bolster that defense. It's the only thing that was really good. Number two, you go spend money on a couple of big names. In this case, it's John Mateer. He was the number one portal player in the country. I mean, we're talking like Bill Belichick and Miami and all these people were going after him. We all think he was coming here, but you had to spend money on John Mateer, whatever that number is. You think it was $2.5 million?
That's what I've heard, but who knows? I'm sure it's high, and I'm sure he's going to be the highest paid player on the team.
So then you got John Mateer. You had to spend money on him. Okay.
You had to.
And then you had to secure Deion Burks because literally you had nobody else to throw the ball to. All right? And we think Deion Burks is really talented. We've seen flashes of it. He wasn't given the opportunity because the offense was so bad, quarterbacks were so bad, play calling was so bad. I'm willing to grant him that pass, right? I think we all think Deion Burks is still pretty good and probably in an Arbuckle offense might be really, really good, right? He had to spend money
the potential's there. Yeah.
Now, we won't know, and it won't show up in the transfer portal because he didn't leave, but you had to spend money to keep him. He's not making a video where he's changing shirts if he didn't get paid.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So we spent money on the defense. We spent money on a big name free agent in terms of John Mateer, and we've secured, hopefully, our best receiver coming in next year. Okay. Kevin, it only leaves so much. Deion Burks is what I'm saying.
Oh,
I'm using Deion Burks as that example. That only leaves so much money. Like, and this isn't like we're broke Oklahoma or, we're not willing to spend. There's nobody else out there. Maybe Zachariah Branch, I guess, but even his performance at SC doesn't dictate that you drop a bag on him.
Right.
You've got to go, and I use the analogy. We're looking for 4th or 5th round players now, and we're looking for 3 or 4. We're going to go with 3 or 4, maybe 5 guys, and hope 2 of them hit. Because if Jaden Gibson and Deion Burks and one of those dudes hit, you're in a significantly better position than you were last year on the receiving side of the ball.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So people are mad. Some OU fans are like, oh, well, why are other SEC teams getting Power 4 guys? I don't know. They're spending too much money if you ask me. I don't know what LSU paid for Nick Anderson and Bauer Sharp, but if you look at their production, they better not have unloaded a bag on those two.
Correct.
Just because you signed Nick Anderson and Bauer Sharp from Oklahoma doesn't guarantee you're getting production out of those guys because they haven't produced in the past. Nick Anderson is a talent. Nick Anderson could be first team all SEC. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about past performance. So I like the strategy. I on Twitter this morning while I was getting ready for the show, somebody said OU is doing a money ball strategy. I think they're doing a money ball strategy as it relates to the offensive skill positions. And I am good with that. I am good with that. I don't know why we're complaining about not going to get Power 5 guys or Power 4 guys that haven't shown anything.
Yeah, you have too many holes in the roster to go out and just get all Power 5 guys. There's too much there. You have you know what I mean? With the amount of players that you guys are bringing in, you have too many holes. You're having to bring in too many guys to get all Power 5 guys. There's just not that much money.
Well, even if it is, I don't think it's worth spending it, Kevin.
Right.
Nobody can point to a receiver to me and say, this guy's the one we should have spent money on. Like,
there have been some good players in the portal, but
but you want to get in
guys.
You want to get in a bidding war with him, Kevin, over Zachariah Branch?
No,
is it
absolutely
Texas? Not. Texas doesn't want to get in a bidding war for Zachariah Branch.
No.
And they're very selective. And if he signed with Oklahoma, I'd be all. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not negating their talent. I'm saying we don't need to get in a pissing contest over receivers that are leaving a Power 5 school for a reason, unless that they're, But Texas has done the same thing. I don't feel like y'all dropped a bag on Isaiah Bond.
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm sure he was paid well, but it wasn't anything unreasonable. Because I think one thing from what I've heard, Texas is concerned about is messing up the dynamic of a locker room by having a guy unproven come in and is making more money than the guys who have showed up and made plays for you. That can fracture a locker room, and you got to be really careful about that. So no transfer is worth messing up the locker room.
I mean, look, last year, and people were it's like they forget what Oklahoma did in the portal, not just this year. You got the number one portal player, the number one position of need. Oklahoma got him. And we're going to act like, Oklahoma's not doing a good job in the portal. That's number one. Number two, last year, you got the number one portal player in the country with Dominic Williams. And a very good receiver that everybody really, really thinks can be really good, put in the right position and put in the right position and given an opportunity to succeed with Deion Burks last year. So can you honestly look at Oklahoma's portal strategy and say they're not being aggressive in the portal? Because I don't know what people are seeing.
Well, I think people are panicking looking at how the season went this year, and they're projecting that out. Look at this roster, and they start comparing this roster to the rosters of the teams that are in the upper tier of the SEC. And they say, okay, well, they're pulling away from us. We're replacing our transfers with these guys that most people have never heard of, right? We're being honest.
Right.
And so it just causes
except for the ones they have heard
of course, material. Yeah, and again, I know I'm with you. I look a little bit deeper than just the surface. So the fact you got Mateer and the fact you have a new scheme, I think Mateer is the type of player that can elevate guys who are lesser talents. And I think he's a guy that can get the most out of the guys you already have. A guy like a Deion Burks. I think he'll be able to get the ball to them. So you just got to be patient and just hope it all works out, which is impossible for fans to do. You know how it is.
Look, I am a critical OU fan. This has been a very hard season on me. And I was on the radio with Toby Rowland, KREF Sports. Download the ref. Go download the KREF app, please, everybody out there. But I was on the radio with him, and I felt bad about it. Because last month when I was on in November, this is before we played Alabama, right? So nobody was feeling good. We had just lost to Missouri, Kevin. It was bad, all right? It was a bad year. And Toby Rowland said to me on air, he's like, John, you used to be so positive. And since you started the podcast, you've been so negative. And I felt bad about that. Like, I was like, man, am I really this guy? Like, have I really turned into somebody that, and it's like, no, Kevin, this season has been hard on all OU fans.
Yeah.
And we're allowed to express some negativity. I am trying to look at this, not just in a positive, like throw some sunshine on the situation. I'm trying to look at it strategically. This is how you have to do it. If you listen, win in sports, i.e. Texas A&M, i.e. super teams in the NBA, i.e. super teams in the NFL. When has it worked to throw big free agent money at skill position players and not worry about the interior of your team? When has that worked?
I mean, it could work in the NBA, but it's certainly not. It doesn't work in the NFL.
Kevin, when has it worked when does a super team work in the NFL in the NBA?
The Miami Heat with LeBron, 2 titles, 4 finals appearances, and maybe the Celtics with Kevin Garnett and them. But again, we're talking about football here, and it's different.
When you talk about rare. When you talk about sustainable success, you think of teams like the Spurs. You think of teams like the Golden State Warriors. You think of the Chiefs. Look at the Chiefs. The Chiefs are not dropping bags on free agent wide receivers.
You're built in the draft. And it's just like, to your point, the best teams are built by high school recruiting and development. And just getting spots in the transfer portal. Just bringing in certain guys.
Bringing in the right guys at the right time for the right amount of money.
Right. Yes. If you look at Texas, Texas is a great example of that. They bring in 4 or 5 guys.
100%. Look, Oklahoma has built the last 20 years on transfer quarterbacks. I say last 15 years on transfer quarterbacks. Why is that not the strategy? And coincidentally, the receivers that were there outside of CeeDee Lamb were not highly recruited receivers that were successful. D.D. Westbrook was a JUCO player. And he won the Biletnikoff. We've seen this.
Nobody knew who Hollywood Brown
before. Nobody knew who Hollywood Brown was. We've seen it work before. It's a very good trade. Will it 100% work? Well, hell, I don't know. We still have to play Michigan. We still have to play Alabama, Ole Miss, Tennessee, South Carolina, LSU, Texas. I don't know if it's going to work, but this is a focused strategy. It's not we're panicking. Bring everybody in, spend all the money, go all in right now. That's stupid. It's a stupid thing to do right now.
Yeah. You gotta get the right dudes in.
There's my transfer portal rant, Kevin. Let's talk a little bit about the larger picture. Oh, go ahead.
Real quick,
please.
have you kept up at all to where some of the guys who have left your program have ended up? I just always find it interesting just to see what's the market like for these guys.
Where did Angel Anthony go?
I believe he ended up at Duke.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. The big signees.
It seems like a good fit for him.
Well, he's got Mensa now, right, at quarterback. Did they really pay Mensa as much as they said they did, or that's just made up?
I didn't hear. What did they say? What's the rumor out there?
What's Mensa's first name?
Is it Jonathan?
Oh, I don't know. That doesn't sound right.
No,
Darian.
Yeah. Sorry.
They're saying $4 million a year.
Oh my goodness! Really? Wow.
I mean, schools like Duke, I guess, might have that money.
Oh yeah. This is being actually reported here. I mean, it's not official, of course.
That's CBS News. That's not Twitter.
Yeah. Oh wow.
From what I understand,
according to sources, this is per that CBS Sports article. It says, according to sources around college football, Mensa received a deal from Duke that is believed to pay him $8 million over 2 years.
Wow. I talked to somebody who met with the One Oklahoma folks, or the Join One Oklahoma, or whatever the NIL deal is right now. And they said that what people don't realize is that these deals are severely backloaded and run through the transfer portal.
What does that mean? The second part.
Meaning a bulk of the money doesn't get paid out until you have not declared for the portal.
Oh, I see. I see.
So, like,
Okay.
let's just use Nick Anderson as an example. Nick Anderson likely walked away from over half of his NIL money promised by Oklahoma when he entered the transfer portal.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. I get that.
Right? So they're saying Mintz at $4 million can't make isn't going to make $4 million if he transfers.
Okay, I think that's smart and that's fair.
I wish they'd let more
For
people
everybody.
know that. I wish they'd let more people know that that's what's
Me
going
too.
on.
Me too. Yeah, because I think people think that players are just taking money and running.
Yeah, and they think that schools are just giving them money. Like, here's all the money, and it's like, no,
Yeah.
y'all got to stay here and act right.
But here's a couple of duffel bags of cash as soon as you show up.
Andrew Anthony to Duke. I liked Andrew Anthony. I wish it would have worked out with him. Getting hurt against that Texas game.
He never got he never got healed from that injury against Texas in the Rivalry Shootout last year.
That really hurt us the back half of the year too. I mean, I don't know that that's given enough thought that the Kansas and the Oklahoma State losses, as bad as they were, did you have an extra receiver as good as Andrew Anthony was playing, leading receiver through the Texas game?
Yeah, and a true deep threat, right? He was what you kind of hope Brennan Thompson could become.
Yeah, but he already was.
That's not you're hoping Brennan Thompson could become that, what Andrew Anthony was.
Arnold going to Auburn, and then of course Nick Anderson and Bauer Sharp at LSU. Outside of that,
so Dason McCullough to Nebraska.
Oh, yep.
That's probably a good to Maryland.
That's probably Jalil Farouk's from Maryland.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, being a DC kid, so
and Dason McCullough to Nebraska.
Eastern Carolina.
Well, that just tells you what the market was for him.
Correct.
Listen, people can get mad at the coaching staff, but that kid was given every opportunity, dude. And you know what kind of fans you and I were both of his. I wanted to see him. He just let us.
If they're playing Jacob Jordan, a true freshman walk-on over him, then that's all we need to know.
But when he got in, you could see it too. When you got in, you could see it.
Yeah, he must be just a horrible. He must have been a horrible practice player for them to not trust a walk-on, a freshman walk-on over a dude with that talent. It's a trust thing. They don't trust him to be out there.
Well, because when he was out there, he dropped balls. Look at the Auburn game. He just wasn't good. All right. That's what's going on there.
Joshua Bates to SMU, Makari Vickers to Colorado. Talented player, by the way.
I just think
Eugene
it's a crowded
to UCLA.
I think he looks at that room and I think he looks at that. I think Makari Vickers says, "I'm not getting over Eli Bowen."
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
And if Gentry Williams comes back, he's definitely not breaking into that starting lineup.
Yeah,
but he is a good player.
Walker to Arkansas. Yeah, talented guy. We'll see what kind of player he ends up, but definitely talent. I'm not sure what his best position is, corner or safety. I'm curious to see how he fits in Colorado. Jaden Rowe to Kansas State. Phil, is it Picciotti?
Yeah.
Picciotti to Central Florida.
Yeah, it's just the thing is, in the olden days, you'd get these recruits like a Phil Picciotti. You'd be so excited about it. And then 4 years would go by and you're like, man, that dude never played.
Yeah. Now, in his defense, he's been hurt, right? I don't think he's been available for most games.
Look, I think he's been hurt, but I also think he's behind this year in particular. Stutzman, Kip Lewis, Kobe McKenzie, Jaron Canick, Omosigo, McCullough when there's just a lot of dudes there. And, again, in the old days, he'd be there 4 years. You'd be like, oh, I wonder what would have happened with him. And now maybe he gets a chance.
And from a Texas standpoint, from the portal, Tassili Akana, the edge from Hawaii, he transferred to BYU.
Was that one that OU was in on too?
Yes. Yeah. He was a signing big commit. Talented player, but he has not been able to add weight.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's been there 2 years and looks pretty much the same that he did when he got there. He just has not been able to add necessarily.
Listen, man, if you look at before and after pictures of kids that enter as a freshman and leave as a sophomore, I mean, They should be radically different.
Correct. Yeah, this wasn't happening for him. Dre Bledsoe to Mississippi State. Sadir Mitchell, who texted, he announced he was entering the portal. Then he said, no, actually, I'm going to stay, only to re-enter the portal officially. He transferred to LSU. He's a big defensive tackle, 6'6", 320.
Did he follow your defensive line coach? Is that why? Probably.
Yeah, that's what makes sense. I mean, he's been there a year. Look, man, Bo Davis is a good coach, but he was not a good recruiter for Texas at all. We could not get any studs on the D-line. Our D-line recruiting has actually gotten better since he left. He's a great D-line coach. I mean, he
coaches them up.
He develops, but did not recruit well, and now Texas is having to hit the portal for that position pretty hard as a result. Anyway, Darian Gillette to Mississippi State. He's a linebacker. Aaron Bryant, another defensive tackle, to Vanderbilt. And Justice Finkley, an edge who has fallen down the depth chart, gotten passed by the likes of Colin Simmons, as he's transferring, but he'll be staying with the team through the playoff run.
Is he the only one that gets to stay?
He's the only one that chose to. Well, I think him and Tia Savea, another defensive tackle, he had transferred from Arizona. He announced he's going into the portal, but he's going to stay through the playoff as well. And that's just his choice. Players can choose to stay or go. You get 5 when you're in the playoff. You get 5 days after your season ends to enter the portal. So, I think with these guys that have announced, they probably still talking to schools, and they might even know where they're going to go, but they've chosen to stay and finish out the season. We had a couple guys do that last year too. The thing about Texas with these guys that are leaving, you probably never heard of any of these guys because none of them have been starters. That's the good thing about this. However, I will say, once the season ends, I would not be surprised at all if we have a couple of players who are even playing significant minutes into the portal, because that's just what it is right now. So
just from an NIL standpoint, you think?
For NIL, or just trying to get a better deal, or think they can even have a bigger role if maybe you're in the rotation at receiver, and then you can go be a starter.
Is there a receiver? There's a receiver.
No, I've heard no names. But it just wouldn't surprise me. And then there's going to be that one guy who is going to end up at a school like Oregon just for a bigger deal, And I have no names or anything. It's just the nature of the sport right now. So you just kind of have to expect that, even from a team that is, technically right now per Vegas, the odds-on favorite to win the national championship.
I think it's all because of the path, right? I think it's I think it's ASU, and then you avoid playing Notre Dame. Well, you're gonna have to play. I don't know, but
we'll have to play Ohio State or Oregon, though.
Yeah,
in the semis we play Ohio State or Oregon. We would not play Notre Dame or Georgia until the championship game.
I want Oregon to win. I think the more I think about it, Oregon did get screwed having to play Ohio State again. That is
absolutely.
That's such a crap hole spot.
And in the Rose Bowl, I mean, and you think, oh, okay, it's Rose Bowl, it's an advantage for Oregon. No, man, it's Buckeye fan. That stadium's gonna be full of red.
Let me ask you this about that. When it comes to the playoff, we're going to talk a little bit about the playoff, but just on that specific question, after seeing what you saw at Texas last week and across the playoff, those were awesome. The home games were absolutely awesome. Can there be a scenario? Will the college football playoff consider making the second round, the quarterfinals, home games? Because I think if you had to go play at Arizona State, even though Arizona State may not be great, it would just be fantastic. Oregon getting to host Ohio State again, fantastic.
That would be, it would be crazy. I mean, going to Sun Devil Stadium, can you imagine that?
In January, where it's perfect? Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be all over it.
I hope they consider that after what they saw, because the other thing is the burden on fans, right? So you have Texas fan. You have Texas fan who has to come up with money, which, by the way, Texas fan has plenty of money, so I don't feel so bad for you. Maybe I should pick another team. But we'll use Texas fan as the example. Texas fan has to come up with money for the first home game. Then they have to make a travel trip for a quarterfinal game
in Atlanta.
And then if they get that, then I guess they're in Dallas. Maybe they're the bad example. But look at Penn State, right? They got to travel and travel and travel and travel.
Yeah, you
That's
get the home
three.
game. Now you got to go to Phoenix
That's
to play
3
that.
games of what would have normally just been that 3 games of which any one of those would have normally been the one trip that most fans budget for.
Correct. And here's the thing: that's Penn State's a great example. So they have the home game. They have to travel to Phoenix to play Boise State. If they win that game, then they have to travel to Miami for that semifinal, and then they have to travel to Atlanta for the championship game. It's just a lot of travel, man. It's a lot for anybody.
Look, even if Oklahoma's in it, I don't think you can reasonably expect anybody except the super rich and then just incredibly diehard that are willing to go into mountains of debt to make all 3 of those games.
Yeah,
That's
it's a lot
nuts.
to ask.
That's
It
nuts.
is a
And
lot
so
to ask.
you're hedging on, well, will they beat this team? Like, oh, Penn State probably beats Boise State, so I don't have to travel to the Fiesta Bowl. I'm going to save my money for Miami. Yeah, I don't know. Just make it
Yeah.
another home game. Make it another home game, and then you're only talking about 20,000 fans traveling anyway, because the other rest of the fans are wherever the home game is.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
mean, I just think the way those atmospheres were, those environments, man, it was just a special moment for college football. Just watching all those, and I know I'm biased as a Texas fan, but even
No,
watch
no
that Notre
respect.
Dame game. I mean, this is incredible. December football at home.
I've made fun of the whiteout before and their lack of success with whiteouts, but that whiteout was unbelievable. It's SMU.
It was.
SMU could not handle that environment. This couldn't.
Think about this, man. What's that stadium hold 32,000 people? That's 3 times the size. Beaver Stadium is 3 times the size of SMU Stadium.
Yeah.
And there's no ACC environment. Clemson has a great environment. But even there's maybe 60,000, 70?
Nah, Florida State's pretty good. Florida State's pretty good.
Yeah, but nothing.
Well, nothing
Florida
like
State is all right.
nothing like what. Hey,
Like
listen,
Penn
if
State.
Florida State was a night game and you got the chop going, Florida State could have been pretty good. They'd have been
Correct.
pretty good.
Yeah, but if you look at who SMU played this year,
No.
On the road.
Well, even if they played Florida State, they were terrible this year. So
yeah,
I
mean,
agree.
even just I'm just talking about just from an environment standpoint, just from an
Yeah.
absolute noise standpoint. Their road games this year at Nevada. Hold on. At Stanford, at Duke, at Virginia. Those are their road games this year.
Yeah. No, I'm with
And then
you.
you go to
I
Penn
agree.
State.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Well, could you
And they
imagine?
were cold.
Listen, everybody thinks Penn State's going to roll Boise, and maybe they will. Probably they will. They're not rolling Boise if it's in Boise.
No, they're not.
They might beat Boise, but I don't think they're
Right.
rolling.
I don't
Boise.
think they are either.
So
I
it's
don't
just
think they are
something.
either. Yeah.
It's just something to consider. Okay, listen, I've been waiting 53 minutes to get to this, and maybe it's not even that big a deal, but I got to tell you, the Shannon Sharp Herb Street deal is like the weakest line of crap between both of these guys. Shannon Sharp, first of all, what Herb Street said is weak about the committee, listening to social media and fringe fans, and why didn't they put in better teams and blah, 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 blah. Dude, you're the spokesman for ESPN and the spokesman for college football. You're the senior voice on college football. And you messed up an opportunity to be a leader there. And you screwed up. Just acknowledge you screwed up. And this is after Tennessee got their ass kicked by Ohio State. It's so hypocritical. It's ridiculous. Okay, so that aside, and then you call out Shannon Sharp, maybe, I guess, whatever. But then Shannon Sharp talking about there's not enough bosses to hold it. Stop. This is manufactured by ESPN, and I can't stand this crap, man. It's weak.
Yeah, it's annoying. It's annoying. But yeah, Herb Street, who I think we both like. We both like Herbie over the
I don't
years.
like Herb Street. Some people don't like him. I
Yeah.
don't mind him.
I've never had a problem with him. But for him to, I wonder what the guys on First Take are gonna have to say about this. Look, everybody was saying the same thing about Ryan Day because of that inexplicable loss that they had to Michigan, and the fact that we know what Ohio State is about as a university and as an administration. If you struggle against Michigan, they will fire you. That's just how it goes,
Yes.
right? I don't think anybody was
That's
being
not
unreasonable
news-breaking. That's not
by
a hot
saying that.
take.
Yeah, that his job was essentially on the line. So it's interesting that he would call out First Take for saying that they could fire Ryan Day if they lose.
His job was on the line. If they had
Correct.
gotten beat by Tennessee, it is
There was a
60 or
chance.
70% chance he's fired.
Yeah, there's a chance they could have got rid of him and moved on because that's what they do. Because they feel like anybody can win there because there is some truth to that. So yeah, so it's dumb. It's annoying. Like I thought, like Shannon Sharp said, I don't agree with how he handled it either, but they're
I
supposed to be on the
just,
same team.
it's an ESPN attempt at a Twitter feud.
Yeah.
And I just think it's weak. I think the whole thing is weak. And I gotta tell you, like, whether Indiana deserves to be there or South Carolina or whatever, we're literally arguing about the 12th team in.
Correct.
We're arguing about the
Right.
12th team in. And everybody's
Yeah.
acting like the college football playoff committee ruined college football this past weekend.
Yeah.
They did not ruin college football. The 4 better teams and the 4 home teams happen to win really big games. Have you seen the NFL playoffs in the wild card round? The
Correct.
home team oftentimes wins big.
Exactly. It's much ado about nothing, man. Especially those teams like we talked about with Alabama and Ole Miss. Alabama, I don't want to hear anything you have to say. You can't lose to. You can't get blown
24-3.
out by this Oklahoma team. You
24-3.
can't. Not this Oklahoma team.
24-3.
Come on. 24-3. You can't show up and play the way they did and expect
You
to
think
get rewarded by
you think Alabama's going in to beat Penn State when you lost to Oklahoma and Vanderbilt? You're going to go into Alabama's going into that environment and
Correct.
they're going to beat Penn State after you lost to Oklahoma 24-3? Stop it. Just stop.
Yeah. No way. And Ole Miss, you lost to Kentucky, dog. Like you lost to Kentucky.
Yes.
They were horrible.
And even with that loss to Kentucky, you had a chance to go beat an okay Florida team. Were they getting better? Was Lagway a great story? That's fine. They were still 7-5.
You can't have 3 straight turnovers if you're to finish a game with Jackson Dart. You're experienced quarterback. You can't finish a game with
first team all team quarterback SEC.
Yes. And you had 3 straight turnovers to end the game. Get out of here, man.
I know we're in the SEC. And maybe it's because we're in the SEC. This SEC talk bothers me even more. It bothers me even more. It is just, God bless America. You had every opportunity, all 3 of those teams. You had every opportunity to get into the playoff. The benefit of the doubt is going to be given to Alabama every single year.
Yeah.
Don't lose to Oklahoma. Don't lose to Oklahoma.
Yeah. And losing is one thing. You got blown out. You didn't show up.
Yeah. So
you got ran on and you couldn't stop the run.
Lane Kiffin with your tweets. Come on, man. Like, it sounds like sour grapes. And I don't know. It makes me hate everybody else in the SEC, which maybe is what we're supposed to do, Kevin. Maybe we're supposed to hate.
Yeah.
Anybody in the SEC. You will never hear me chant SEC. I literally want Georgia to get their ass kicked by Notre Dame.
Never. Yes. Correct.
I want Georgia to get their ass beat down by Notre Dame. I really, really do. And as far as Texas goes, you know it. I just told you about Arizona State here. God,
you know what it is. Yeah.
SEC crime. Get over yourselves. Get over yourselves. Play better.
And I hope that they never consider us to be one of them. That's great. We don't want to be like y'all. I don't.
No. I want us to. We need to. Dude, Mateer needs to come save the day. All right. Real quick. Well, the only other news we have. I think it's weak that the NFL is trying to horn in on NBA action.
I mean,
isn't one of those games on Peacock too? Like, screw you, NFL.
No. They're both on Netflix.
Oh, that's right, Netflix. You're right.
And here's the thing: not only are they having 2 games on Christmas Day, they're having Mariah Carey
on a Wednesday.
On a Wednesday. They're having Mariah Carey perform.
I do like Mariah.
They're having Beyonce perform. Are you serious? So they're basically what they're doing is not only are we going to take over the NBA's traditional day, we're going to make sure that everybody is watching our game. Everybody.
Which game is Mariah Carey on? Because I will be watching that
one. The first game, which is Kansas City and Pittsburgh.
I did not know Mariah Carey was performing. This is new news to me. I don't so much care about Beyonce. I mean, I'm fine with Beyonce. She's great. She's great. But Mariah Carey on Christmas, oh my God. They've sucked me in, Kevin. They sucked me in. I didn't know this.
Yeah.
I agree with you, though. No, all joking aside, I agree with you. Why are they putting 2 games on Saturday against the college football playoff?
Correct.
They're not even very good. They're not even very good games,
this.
Kevin. They're not even very good games. Come on.
No. But these Christmas games, I mean, yeah, they're doing it for no reason. They don't even have to do this on a Wednesday.
Yeah,
a Wednesday.
I mean. If it was Thursday, I guess, because you've got Thursday night games, I guess. But you don't have to do it. It's so weird.
Correct.
And
they put them on Netflix. You can't even switch back and forth between the NBA and the NFL game.
And you've got 2 pretty good teams with the Chiefs and the Ravens. So that's frustrating too.
Yeah, the Ravens are playing against Houston. They're a good team too.
Listen.
And they're playing against the Steelers. These are 4 playoff teams.
I blame the NBA though. I blame the NBA for this. You want to know why?
Why?
Because they didn't put the Thunder on the NBA on Christmas. So it's the NBA's fault. If the NFL called the Thunder and SGA on Christmas, I don't know, for the Spurs, who still suck, for the 76ers, who suck, for the Lakers, who still suck, and for the Nuggets, I guess the Nuggets are okay. Never mind. The Suns, stop it. They're the number 1 team in the West. With the runner-up in the MVP, who could win the MVP this year, who have traditionally been on Christmas Day when they've been good. I do not understand why.
They're the number 1 seed last year. It's not like they're some kind of sneaky team all of a sudden. It's like, oh, this team's actually better than we thought.
It's a slap in the face. I hope it fuels their hate fire. Yeah. I hope it fuels their hate fire because it's crap. So I blame the NBA. I blame the NBA for all of it.
Yeah, it's dumb to not showcase the best team in the Western Conference from last year, who has everybody back, is actually even better than they were last year. Yeah, it's ridiculous, man.
It makes me so mad, Kevin. They're 23-5, the number 1 team in the West, and your SGA is maybe the best player in the league right now.
Correct.
Arguably the best player in the league right now.
Yeah, probably the front runner for MVP.
And he's not on their premiere day. It's maddening. It is maddening.
Yeah,
I hate it. Oh, I can't stand it. Listen, I liked watching Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook play on Christmas Day. It was fun. I looked forward to it.
Yes, the rest of the country did too.
And the rest of whatever, dude. It's such crap. All right, there we go, Kevin. Listen, dude. I've got a turkey to go pick up. You got to start mentally preparing for this brisket situation. I've got to go supervise all the accoutrement of the rest of the meals. And maybe play a little Santa tonight, Kevin. I have to play a little Santa tonight. Looking forward to it.
You're good at that. You and Alan is very generous this time of year when it comes to a lot of your charity work.
Thank you. Listen, you're not a parent yet. You've been a foster parent numerous times over the year, and talk about charity work. That's a jewel in your crown, my friend. You and Casey, big hearts.
Thank you.
However, for those that are parents, and you don't know this because you don't have foster kids right now, but if you had foster kids, this would absolutely apply to you, okay? And maybe you will. I don't know. But listen, 364 days a year, it sucks being a parent. Kids are terrible, dude. They're horrible. I have a 13-year-old daughter right now. She hates me. Okay?
Sounds about right.
But on Christmas, Kevin, you get to be the hero. And that's the meaning of Christmas. Right there in a nutshell. Merry Christmas.
Everybody.
Merry Christmas out there. Go be Santa Claus. Go eat some brisket. Go eat some turkey from Ed's Chicken Shack. Go wherever you need to go. Kevin, have a great Christmas. Say Merry Christmas to your family and your bride, Casey. Everybody else, just enjoy yourselves. Enjoy your family. Have a great rest of your week. We'll be back after Oklahoma beats Navy. Boomer!
Hook 'em.